All right. Well, TGIF and happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of In Case You Missed It in GovTech. We're going to be talking about the latest trends, but we've got a special interview today with a special guest, Sarah Kerner, the co-founder and chief strategy officer of CivStart. Now, CivStart is an accelerator that is focused on the state and local government market. They've been doing a ton of great work. They're great partners of ours at Government Technology, and we're going to dive into some of their work and some of the new exciting things that they've got planned for 2021 and beyond. So Sarah, thanks so much for carving some time out on a Friday to join us.
Happy Friday. Thanks for having me.
Well, maybe we'll start first with a little bit about your background and kind of what led you to eventually co-founding CivStart with Anthony and Nick.
Yeah, sure. So my background, I guess it's easiest to categorize it as being in advocacy, nonprofit management, and strategic partnerships. And when I was formulating CivStart with Anthony and Nick, I was leading corporate partnerships for an association focused on better data policy in government. And I think two things kind of struck me about that experience. The first was I was shocked at how behind government was, not only in data reporting, sharing, and use, but in utilizing technology generally. And then at the same time, I was collaborating with a lot of GovTech companies and startups that had useful solutions for governments, but really needed assistance navigating the space. So it became pretty clear to me and my co-founders that there was a need for an organization focused on forging those strategic relationships, between the innovative tech solutions and governments. And I think, ultimately we really want to foster just an honest and inclusive ecosystem of solutions that serve state and local governments and their communities and help kind of de-risk these innovators and speed up the adoption of their technologies the best way possible. So that's kind of what led up to it and my background a little bit.
Hey, thanks for that, Sarah. I really do appreciate that explanation. One thing I'm curious about is your process for accelerating startups in this market. How does that work and how long does it last?
Yeah, and I think the length is probably one of the most unique features of our accelerator. It is 2 years long. And I think the biggest reason for that is just to ensure that the startups we take on have the support that they need to really deliver on the services that they're providing to governments. So that's really what we mean by, I guess, honest solutions. We want to be there to make sure that they're successful throughout the process. And throughout the 2-year program, we aim to provide holistic support for their businesses that really de-risk the solutions for governments. And so the first thing that comes to mind are the importance of relationships and partnerships. So we kick the program off by connecting the startups to advisors and mentors in the space, as well as corporate sponsors and potential investors who provide an array of in-kind benefits, consulting, and partnership opportunities. We also partner with government associations and platforms like yours that are heavily used by governments to give the startups exposure to government decision makers. And this often includes us co-hosting focus groups or events where they're able to have dialogue directly with government leaders. We do offer some fundraising support as well for those looking to raise a round. And lastly, and I think most importantly, a lot of our time is spent just one-on-one with these startups, helping them with their marketing and their business development strategies and connecting them directly to some potential government partners as we can.
That's great. And, it's fascinating about CivStart, much like, eRepublic or Government Technology, you all are laser focused on the state and local government market.
Right.
Can you describe how you work with governments and startups today?
Yeah, absolutely. We primarily work with startups through our accelerator program that I mentioned to you already, but we're also working on growing a larger ecosystem of GovTech startups and kind of offering them some resources and event participation. So even if they're not participating in our program, they can be a part of our broader network and get some support that way. As far as the governments, the majority of our work really comes at no cost to the government. And depending on what the government's looking for, we can either augment their innovation team's ability to work with startups or help build kind of that muscle for them. So we guide government leaders through a process that starts out with creating comprehensive and thorough challenge statements that startup solutions can respond to. And then we actually go out and source the potential startups that meet those challenges for them, and then kind of help oversee or program manage the success of a pilot or contract. One good example of this that we were able to do this year is through our participation in the National League of Cities and Kauffman Foundation's City Innovation Ecosystems program, if you've heard of that, where we're supporting 7 different cities in doing, exactly that. And I hear a lot from governments that we've done this with that they really want to work with more startups. They just don't really have the bandwidth to go out and source those solutions on their own. So we try to kind of be that bandwidth for them at the same time as, de-risking those startup solutions that are new to them.
That's great. So I know you've run multiple cohorts since you launched. Tell me a little bit about what you've learned about the market or even scaling a business in this market from the work that you've done.
Yeah, and when I have conversations with startups that are thinking about participating in our program, I often tell them 3 things, and I think this kind of gets to the heart of your question as well. The first one is patience, and you really need to be patient in landing your first couple of contracts with governments. We tend to see that once you have some good contracts or some good case studies that you can use, it's then easier to scale, especially within that same region. And so we're really trying to help startups get those initial case studies that they can use to promote. And the second one is it's a very relationship-oriented industry. So I would suggest using a lot of your time, especially in our program, really taking advantage of our network and trying to build those important relationships so folks have you top of mind as they see opportunities. And the third would be don't be a salesman, but be a thought leader and a partner. And I think, governments, they hear plenty of pitches all the time, but what they really want is for you to listen and truly understand their problem and be able to have a dialogue outside of just pitching your product. So those are probably the 3 top of mind things I would say.
Hey, Sarah, so I'm curious more about the government side. What makes a government agency a really good candidate to work with? Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. So I think, most agencies probably have a problem that a good technology solution could help with, and they just don't realize it. We find that we work with leaders from across all different agencies. There really just needs to be a willingness to be open-minded about working with new solutions that might streamline your process, make you more efficient, help in a way that you didn't realize was possible. A lot of times the solutions are more affordable than the ways that they're solving the issues now. And so I think we're really looking for any leader in an agency that is looking to transform and improve the way that they've been doing things. And so sometimes we'll work with mayor's offices and city leaders, but a lot of times it really is those agency leaders that are just looking to be open-minded in that way and work with startups. And there are a lot of different ways we kind of engage government agencies, which I'm happy to talk about as well.
Great. You've also announced that the 2021 startup for the cohort applications is now open. So what type of startups are you looking for?
Yeah, so our annual cohort is really for any type of GovTech solutions, meeting any type of need. So we're not issue specific in our annual cohort program. So for example, we have folks working in utilities and human trafficking, housing and urban development, citizen engagement, data analysis, you name it. But the one thing we are really looking for are companies that already have a solution that's ready to go to market and they're ready to help us kind of help them scale. And so that's our main criteria. It tends to be startups in their, pre-seed to Series A, if you want to look at it that way. And startups can go to our website to get more details on the program itself and apply. It's open for another month or so for this next cohort.
Real quick, you want to what that website is for those startups that might be listening in that match that criteria?
Sure, it's easy. It's just CivStart.org.
Perfect. Thank you.
And look at that. We've got a link on the screen as well. So
how convenient.
Very convenient. So, Sarah, one of the things that really impressed me about CivStart initially was just the focus on some of the more complex, challenges in the market, kind of the elephants that are in the room that weren't often addressed, like an inclusive ecosystem. And I know that's a big part of your focus for the GovTech market. So I'd love to learn, especially around that specifically, how you're focused on incorporating, that inclusive mindset into your work for GovTech.
Yeah, we look at it from two different angles. The first is the founders themselves of these GovTech startups wanting to make sure we're supporting founders from a diverse background. I think usually around 40% of the startups in our program are women and minority led, for example. We also are really keen on supporting solutions that are serving underrepresented communities as well with their products. And so we work with a lot of solutions in that way. I think one initiative that we took that I think is really important is making sure we bring all the different stakeholders together to really think about what they can do to make the GovTech ecosystem more inclusive. So we ended up launching a task force, and we had folks from, government, corporations, investment, academia, nonprofits, all coming together to talk about, how their vertical can help, play a role in making GovTech more inclusive. So we launched that task force, and we actually published a report on that on our website that you can also take a look at, and hope to do more kind of research and kind of thought leadership in that space that we hope can be helpful.
Hey, Sarah, I was wondering, could you tell me about a new event or partnership that you might have with eRepublic / government technology?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. So we are really excited to be working with you all on two upcoming items. The first is an event. It is called the State of GovTech. It's May 4th through 5th, so coming up pretty soon here. And it's focused on the current market trends and solutions within GovTech. And it'll have a lot of great panel discussions with government and industry leaders, as well as showcase a lot of the startup solutions that are in our cohort. So it'll be a chance to see some really great demos as well as dialogue. So would love to have folks sign up for that. It is free to attend, which is always great. And then secondly, we are launching a brand new program in partnership with you all called the State and Local Government Innovation Program. And so it kind of incorporates a lot of elements that we talked about already as far as the services we provide to governments and the accelerator benefits that we offer startups, where it's going to be kind of an issue-specific sprint-style type program where government participants will work with us to create their own unique challenge statements, within that issue area, and then we'll select startups who will receive accelerator support while also trying to develop their responses to those challenges and how they can help. It'll all lead up to a demo day where this will be showcased, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about some pilots between the participating governments and startups that come out of that and how they're meeting their challenge statements. And so we'll be announcing this again at our GovTech event, and hope to have some governments and startups apply to participate in that.
Awesome. Well, we actually have an audience question that came in. Can you share any examples of startups that you've worked with?
Yeah, absolutely. And we outline them all on our website as well if you want to dive into all of them. But I think one example is in the realm of citizen engagement. So if you've heard of Citizen Lab or CityBot, those are ways virtually that governments can connect directly with their citizens. And so that's one example. But we have folks that are working in water or in human trafficking, and all have great solutions for different ways that we can solve some of the toughest problems.
Well, great. And thanks to Shelley for asking that question. But Sarah, you mentioned kind of where we can go to find more information on the startups you're working with and more information of CivStart. So anything else that you want to share with us in terms of background or anything that we might have missed?
I think, just one more thing for governments. We love to work directly with governments, kind of hands-on, to help them develop challenge statements and source solutions. But we also, kind of on a lighter touch, are always looking to learn from governments by hosting focus groups or peer-to-peer exchanges or roundtables around different topics, and kind of just creating a space of dialogue between government leaders. So if there are any governments interested in participating in something like that, please reach out to us. And we're always looking for governments to attend our events and interact with our startups as interested as well. So that's probably the last thing I would note. And I hope to see everyone at our upcoming event that we're co-hosting with you all.
All right, awesome. Well, again, Sarah, thank you very much for joining us today. And Jed and I and Dustin, we all look forward to that event. We look forward to seeing what comes of it. And we want to wish everyone that tuned in a wonderful weekend. So stay safe. Have a good time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.